They did.
You deserve to get clucked. No condom necessary in all of your holes. Sup though? I'm recording? Okay. Jesus Christ.
When I was a kid, I went to Chuck E. Cheese.
You know what took me for, I don't know if y'all can see it, but it took me forever to realize that the number that's on these businesses is the amount of locations that they have. I think. So, I'm pretty sure. So, Chuck E. Cheese has at least over 3,000 locations. That's disturbing.
Times. It was pretty popular back then for kids to go to for birthday parties or for whatever reason. I always loved going there, and every part about it was cool. But one time, when I was about 8 years old, that all changed. I was invited to my friend's birthday party, and it would be at the local Chuck E. Cheese. He was a friend of mine.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I would have got that phone call from my friend Johnny. I'm playing the video game. I don't know. Yo, what's good? Yeah, I know your birthday coming up. Where you gonna have? Where you gonna have your birthday party? Chuck E. Cheese. Johnny! I just want to let you know, first and foremost, cluck you and everything that you stand for, right? You ain't shit. Your mama ain't shit. You know what I mean? Cut all ties with me. You know, we've been through thick and thin, even though we've been alive for 8 years. But, you know, we've been through a lot. But that Chuck E. Cheese shit, I told you day one. That Chuck E. Cheese shit, when we first came out the womb, don't do that. And we'll look at you. You're doing it. So bye, Johnny. It's been nice knowing you. Don't contact me. Don't look for me.
And classmate from school. I think his name was Ben, and we weren't really that great of friends, but he invited like 20 people.
God damn!
The party was that Saturday, and the neighborhood that I lived in was really close by to the Chuck E. Cheese. In fact, I could walk there if I wanted to.
That's crazy.
So on Saturday, my parents actually did in fact let me walk there. It took me under 10 minutes.
Your parents ain't shit.
Our neighborhood was very safe that I was aware of. I don't remember any crime happening or ever feeling scared to leave my house. I got to the Chuck E. Cheese and was one of the first kids there. I talked to Ben, and pretty quickly a bunch of other kids started showing up. After that, I don't remember a whole lot. We were just playing arcade games, eating pizza, and drinking soda. It was a pretty fun time. Just like any other experience that I had at Chuck E. Cheese as a kid. There were other people there too, but for my friend's party, they had rented off a little room of space. He had cake as well, and the party lasted for probably 2 or 3 hours.
Jesus Christ.
Then, when people started to leave, I decided to go home. I remember I told Ben's parents that I was going to walk home, and they offered to give me a ride. I told them how close I lived, and they made sure that my parents knew I was walking home, but they said it was okay. So then, I left. I was happy to walk back by myself, because it made me feel older than I actually was. And when I walked home on that day, everything was fine. I took the sidewalk past the Chuck E. Cheese and behind it. That led right into the residential neighborhood that I lived in. Then I just walked a few blocks and only had to turn once. It was still daytime and just seemed like a regular Saturday to me. I don't remember noticing anything out of the ordinary. I made it home, and after getting there, I don't really remember what I did for the rest of the day.
That's crazy. 8 years old and you walking by yourself. That's crazy. You went to Chuck E. Cheese by yourself. You walking by yourself. That's crazy. That's crazy. And just because you don't remember, like, you know, anything happening, cluck shit happening with your own eyes, like you don't remember seeing that shit, hearing about it, don't mean not a damn thing.
Probably just the typical stuff of watching TV or playing video games. I lived with my parents and younger brother in a one-story house that wasn't really that big or small. I went to bed that night, and this is where things get really creepy. I had my bedroom all to myself, and my window was next to my bed and looked out to the backyard. At some point, in the middle of the night, I woke up. I'm not really sure why I did, but when I did, I was really groggy and kind of looked around my room, wondering what time it was. I then sat up to look at my clock/radio that was on my nightstand next to me. It was then that I realized something was outside of my window. My blinds covered the window, but they were open partly. Then I remember looking over to see a large Chuck E. Cheese mask. It was the mask of the mouse, and somebody was standing there, wearing it over their head, and staring into my window. The feeling that I got when I saw it was the most scared I had ever been, for sure.
But why? That's Chuck E. Cheese. That's Chucky. That's your boy. You know? Y'all be cooling it. Y'all kicked it for about 2-3 hours. That's your boy, right? That's your boy, right? So what you scared for, player? Huh? Oh, don't switch up now. Don't be fake now.
I was also shocked, and I just couldn't believe it. It was so random and bizarre. I moved back and got off of my bed. Then I ran away and into my brother's bedroom. He was fast asleep, and I just kind of stood in there for a while, just inside the doorway, not knowing what to do. Eventually, I went into the living room and turned on the TV. I didn't want to wake anybody else up, but I also didn't want to go back into my bedroom, and I couldn't sleep. I don't recall hearing anything else strange, and I didn't see the guy for the rest of the night. Eventually, I fell asleep on the living room couch. When my parents and brother got up, they asked me what I was doing on the couch, and I remembered the whole thing and told it to them. They were confused, and I think they believed me, but it was just such a weird situation. I even questioned myself many times if I actually saw what I think I did. I definitely was not half asleep though. I know that I was wide awake. We went outside and saw something extremely creepy. Just below my window on the grass, there were some Chuck E. Cheese tickets.
God.
I never saw the guy again or experienced anything like that after. I wonder if it was somebody from Chuck E. Cheese who followed me home or something.
How you know it was a guy? It could have been a female. You sexist. Sorry. It could have been a guy, a female, or somebody that identifies. Oh my God. You're a male or a female. That's it. Like, come on with it.
To me, that makes the most sense. But like I said, I didn't notice anything unusual. Still to this day, I'm left with many questions about that experience.
Chuck E. Cheese followed your ass home. He wanted some of that. Pause.
When I was a kid, one of my classes in school won a field trip to Chuck E. Cheese. I don't remember at all how or why we won it, but I know that we were all very excited. I had only been to Chuck E. Cheese one previous time, and I think I was about 10 years old back then. When it was time for class that day, we all met in the classroom and then walked out to the bus. I remember that it was a great feeling leaving school during a school day to go to Chuck E. Cheese. We rode the bus for about 10 minutes to get there, and then we went inside. This Chuck E. Cheese was located near a strip mall at the local shopping area for our city. It wasn't very busy, being a weekday during the daytime, and there was probably about 20 or 30 of us kids total.
That little play area, you got all of that.
We all got a number of tokens to play the
SpongeBob looked sus as shit.
games, and there were a few pizzas for us as well. We all started running around playing the arcade games and stuff. It was turning out to be one of the best school days of my life to that point. But I remember that about 30 minutes in or so, I was looking for a new game to play. I just kind of wandered off to the corner by myself just to see everything that was over there. That particular area didn't have a whole lot, and there was nobody else really in that area. I walked past a couple of those car racing game machines, I think. While between them and another game, I saw a grown man crouched down like he was hiding. He was really hard to see, and I'm surprised that I even saw him at all, to be honest. When I did, I first started to walk past, but I realized I saw somebody, and I stopped.
If I was you not going, I 100% guarantee that you not about to say what I'm about to say. But what you should have said was, when you saw him, the first time you saw him, the first second you walking, What the clock?
Then I went closer to examine and see if there actually was a man there.
Oh, Jesus.
When I did, I got within about 50 feet of the guy, and he turned and looked at me.
That's too close.
I gave him probably a confused look, but didn't say anything. He then smiled and put his finger up to his mouth, signaling me to be quiet. I guess this guy was playing hide and seek with maybe...
What's it called when you do this? What is it called when you do this? Old guy is making contact, like eye contact. It's like old guy notices the kid notices the old man. Old man is like, kid talking about, what? You want me to be quiet? Don't say nothing. Don't give up your location that you right here. So don't do that. So you want me to be quiet. Don't give up your location. Don't tell nobody you there. Why? Huh? Why would you want me to? Oh, so you can trap and get other kids. What's that called?
Kid or something. It seemed really weird, but I didn't think too much of it. I kind of nodded back to him and then left him alone. I kept moving, trying to decide which game that I would play next. After not finding anything in that corner that I wanted to play, I started to move back over to the other games. But not far from that area, I found a game and started to play it. I was at that game for maybe 5 minutes or so. At one point of being there, I happened to look over to the quiet corner that I had been at before. I don't know why, but I just did. It was near where I had seen the man who had been hiding. But now I saw the guy again. He was standing up and with a girl who was not in my class. She appeared to be younger than me, and at first I figured that she was his daughter. But I noticed that they were walking towards the emergency exit, and the way the guy looked, I just had a bad feeling. Something just wasn't right, and I decided to walk over.
Oh, yeah.
I had no plan and didn't know what I was going to do or say. I started walking straight for the guy, and he then saw me. What happened next was really surprising. He had been holding on to the little girl's hand, and then he let her go. Then he walked towards the exit door and left. The girl remained inside, standing there. I guess it wasn't an emergency exit, because no kind of alarm or anything went off, but the guy was now gone. I walked over to the girl and asked her if she knew that guy. She didn't say anything to me, but shook her head no. After that, I walked with her back over to my teacher and told her about what had happened. The man was long gone, though. I'm not really sure what else was done, because I went back over to the arcade.
You just now gonna say something? You trash. You trash. You trash. You trash. I just started saying that for some reason. You trash. I don't know. I think you saying you trash and then saying you a cluck ass kind of means like the same thing. But I guess saying trash, a lot more people will understand. But saying cluck, yeah, I might go back. You're a cluck ass and you trash. Trashing that ass on some cluck shit. Hey.
I don't remember a whole lot of details after, but I'm glad that I saw the man both times. Something about him just seemed suspicious from the start.
Oh, yeah?
I trusted my instincts, and my instincts were right.
SpongeBob looking ass. How nobody else see him? How nobody else noticed that old man?
This is something that happened almost 10 years ago now. It was 2015, and at the time, I was a divorced mother of a 10-year-old boy.
Jesus Christ.
I enjoyed spending time with my son, and we would do fun things together all the time. One night, I took him to Chuck E. Cheese. It was fairly busy, and there were a lot of other people there. My son always loved going there, and I would usually just sit at a table as he played the games. He was old enough that I didn't need to always keep an eye on him, so I sat at one of the tables and went on my phone. On this night in particular, I was pretty much by myself at one of the tables. My son was in the arcade somewhere, and nobody was sitting immediately near me. At one point, though, a man came up and sat at my table. I didn't see where he had come from. I just noticed when he sat down, and I looked up to see him there. He looked to be around my age, so roughly late 30s, and had really short blonde hair.
Yo. Him just randomly going to your table. That's the same as I bet he's the same person. as like one of those coworkers, like when it's like at a restaurant, like where it's like real slow, right? And like you're at your position and like you're cleaning or you're organizing or you're doing something at your specific station. You know, like for example, like I'm at Chipotle, right? And I'm the cook, but somebody is on chips or somebody is on DML2, I think that's what it's called, or like the online order section, or even on the actual line itself, and it's slow as hell. Like almost nobody is coming in for some reason. And I don't know, I'm just like organizing or I'm making food or whatever, and somebody off of chips talking about something. What you doing? I'm cutting chicken. What? Get out of here, you sus ass.
I was a little bit confused by why he was sitting at my table, and I looked up at him. That's when he just stated that his kid loved Chuck E. Cheese. I said that mine did too, and we talked very briefly about our kids. I don't remember much of what he said, because I was still confused as to why he had come up to me in the first place. He must have sensed my confusion, because he then stuck out his hand for me to shake and introduced himself to me. He said that his name was Dave, and I gave my name to him. Then he said that he better get going, and he got up and walked away. I watched him walk back into the arcade and out of my sight. The whole encounter was a little bit strange. I stayed where I was for probably another 30 minutes or so.
God damn.
I didn't see Dave at all for the rest of the night. After my son had used up all of his tokens, he came over and got something with his tickets, and then we left. It was the next day that I was on Facebook when I saw that I had a friend request from a guy named Dave.
How the hell?
At first, I didn't know who he was, so I clicked on his profile. I then realized that it was the same man who had talked to me at Chuck E. Cheese the previous night.
How do you do that?
This was kind of weird, because I had only given him my first name, and I wasn't really sure how he found me.
And by first name, you meant you gave him your real name. Who does that shit? Who does that? I just want to let y'all know that people can find you off your first name. That's it. So say like a random ass name, like Tobiana.
We didn't have any mutual friends or anything. There wasn't a whole lot on his profile as far as information or pictures either. I don't really know why, but I accepted his friend request. Unless it was obviously a robot or something, I would kind of automatically accept everyone. But that proved to be a mistake.
Yeah, I did that. When I first started YouTube, I would just accept everybody's friend requests. And I think I was just being nice until I started getting some weird ass sus messages. And I'm like, bro, this gotta stop. I do not know you. I was being nice, but nah, that shit gotta stop now. Cause I don't know you. Like, you sus.
As only about an hour later, he started sending me messages. He started out by saying hi and asking what I was doing. I wasn't interested in talking to him, to be honest, and I didn't respond. He kept sending me messages though. By the next day, there was about 10 more unread messages that I had from him. I finally decided to respond and asked him why he was sending me so many messages. He replied saying because I wasn't responding. He then asked me if I wanted to hang out with him, and I...
Can you imagine them two being in a relationship? You know how awkward that shit would be? Like, if you're messaging somebody and it's been a day or so, or even a week, or even not even a whole day and they don't respond, they usually don't want to talk to you. So move on, brother. Move your cluck, sus, ass, trash, ass, clucked ass. Move it on, player. Cause can you imagine them being friends? I can't. It's awkward. It's awkward. Dude, she don't want to talk to you.
I told him no thanks, and that's when his mood started to change. He started cursing me out and calling me things that I won't repeat here. I told him that if he didn't stop messaging me, I was going to block him. That's when he said something that really made me...
I would have blocked you right off, right after you calling me all them shits, all them names. I would have blocked your ass right then and there. But then, if you found me on Facebook with just my first name, the chances of you actually knowing where I live is pretty up there.
He said something like, "Go ahead, I know where you live."
Jeez,
It gave me the chills to read it, because based on his behavior, I thought that maybe he did somehow know. He then said that he didn't even have a kid. I blocked him and reported his account for harassment to Facebook. I just hoped that that would be it, and I wouldn't have to deal with him anymore.
He literally said, "I know where you live." Lady, I don't know what world you're living in, but it's not this, like, it's better. Hey, I would say get some condoms ready, but apparently he don't need no condoms. No condom, yeah. Just saying, no condom necessary. He about to pluck your ass up.
For a few days, I didn't hear from Dave or see him at all. But then, one night, he came to my house.
Oh, Jesus!
Luckily, my son wasn't home at the time. He was at a friend's house.
How?
It was probably about 8 or 9 p.m., and I would be leaving to pick up my son soon. There was a knock on my front door to the house. And I knew instantly, based on how late it was, that it was probably Dave. My heart was racing as I walked over to look out one of the front windows. He knocked on the door again as I saw him standing there. I wasn't going to answer it, but soon he started yelling. I heard him say that he knew I was home and to open up the door. I was thinking that this guy had to have been crazy or something. He started looking around to the windows, and I quickly moved away. I knew that this was grounds to call the police, and I got my phone from the counter and dialed 911. As I was talking to the operator, Dave started yelling something else, but I wasn't paying attention to him. I was told that a police officer was in the area and would head over. I figured they would be there in a couple of minutes, and I started to feel better. Meanwhile, Dave kept knocking on the door. He was clearly angry now, and I heard him yell at me that if I didn't open the door for him, he was going to break in. That's when the relief that I felt went away, and I was just as worried as I had ever been. I still didn't bother to say anything back to Dave, though. Instead, I moved into my hallway and entered the bathroom. Then I closed the door and locked it, and hoped that Dave wouldn't actually try to break in. The bathroom had a small window that faced our backyard. At first, when I was in there, things were quiet now that I was farther away from Dave. I could barely hear the knocking, but then the knocking stopped. Probably about 2 minutes later, I then heard noises coming from the backyard. It sounded like Dave was possibly banging on the kitchen window. This only lasted for a few seconds though, and then it stopped. I didn't hear anything for a few minutes after that. The next thing I knew, I got a call from the police saying that they were there. I left my bathroom and saw several officers outside of my house with flashing lights. They had actually caught Dave, and I was told that he had been hiding in my backyard. I pressed charges against him for harassment, and later got a restraining order. I'm happy to say that I've never seen him since then.
I hope so. But you know, ignorants don't care about restraining orders no more.
I used to work at a Chuck E. Cheese. I worked there in high school when I was a senior, and a little bit in the summer after I graduated. Most of the time that I worked, it was at nights, especially if it was during the week.
Of course. Of course it's at night. Because who works at Chuck E. Cheese during the day? That's unheard of. You know the best time is to go at nighttime. Can you imagine Chuck E. Cheese being 24/7? Oh my God.
I liked the job and made several friends in my time working there. I even still talk to a couple of them.
No. Those friends that you made, nah, those not friends. Those are club friends. Yeah, those are Chucky friends. Just saying.
Anyways, on this night, I was working until close. Sometimes, a few of us would have to stay for a while after closing, cleaning and stuff.
My ass.
This was one of those nights, and I stayed until probably almost 10 p.m. Finally, I was able to go home. The Chuck E. Cheese parking lot connected to a few other businesses' parking lots in the area. Most of them were closed by now, though. It was very dark and quiet. I remember that when I got into my car, I started it up. As soon as I did, though, I saw a bunch of headlights coming from the side of the Chuck E. Cheese building. They all started slowly driving towards me. I was really confused. When they got closer, they stopped. They all parked close to me, and I had no clue why. They were all different kinds of cars, most seeming relatively old. One was really small with just 2 doors, the other had 4 doors, and another was like an old Ford Taurus. I didn't really get a good look at the other one. It seemed really sketchy to me, so I started to drive away. But as soon as I did, the cars all started to move as well. I tried to remain calm and just kept driving my way back home. It would take me about 10 to 15 minutes to drive home, and there were just a few turns that I had to make. I was hoping that at one of those turns, the cars would decide to stop following me. But the whole ways that I drove, they remained a ways back. I just kept driving home without really thinking about it. I was young and didn't know what else to do. I soon reached...
You young, dumb, and you trash. Man, come on now. Jesus Christ. You're being followed. And you go home. You know what I hate? Them fake ass wannabe cluckies that follow you for what it seems like forever, but then the second you get to a police station, they out. Follow me all the way too.
Street, and I turned onto it. When I later turned into my driveway, all 4 of the cars kept driving, and at first I was happy. But I then saw them all come to a stop, parking right in front of my house. I got out of my car when I had parked in the driveway. All of the cars were just sitting there. I walked to the front door pretty quickly, keeping my eyes on the cars. They did...
You deserve to get clucked. No condom necessary in all of your holes. Every last one of them. You know? Every last hole. Even the ones that is not meant for it.
Moved, and nobody got out. Once I was inside my house, I felt much safer.
Really?
But still, I didn't know what was going on and was afraid that I might potentially be in danger.
Oh, shit.
I looked around for my parents inside to tell them about the situation. Unfortunately, though, they had both gone to bed already because it was sort of late.
Wake them up.
This was bad news for me because I had no idea what I was supposed to do. I just kept watching out the window and hoping that the cars would leave. Their engines turned off and lights turned off, but the cars remained there. For about 10 minutes, nothing happened. I don't think that anybody got out of the cars because I thought I would have heard a car door open or close, and I didn't see them either. We lived in a quiet neighborhood with not very many streetlights, so I couldn't really see much. I remained at the window watching, but I was careful so that they wouldn't be able to see me if they looked in. I kept most of the lights in the house off. As this went on, I got increasingly curious as to what they were doing. Then, all of a sudden, all of the cars seemed to start within a couple of seconds of each other. Just a few seconds after that, they all drove away. It was the strangest thing ever. I stayed up until almost 1 o'clock in the morning, and the cars never came back. After that, I never saw them again. I worked at Chuck E. Cheese for a couple of more months, and never experienced anything else strange like that.
Do you understand that you did not win the fight? But there's still a bigger fight about to happen. It may not happen when you least it, like, you know, it may not happen, you know, the next day, the next week, the next month, the next 3 years. But they know where you live. That's all I gotta say about that. You cannot be serious. That's like some cluck shit going down, and then you ratted somebody out that did some cluck, that was a part of the cluck shit, to the cops. And the person that you ratted out has a photographic memory. Right? And they go to jail. And you thought, whew, I'm good. Well, I don't got to worry about nothing. But literally, you know, they only going to jail for what, 30 years. they going to jail for 30 years. But the person that you ratted out got a photographic memory. And when they get out, they've been plotting and scheming for 30 years. And when they get out, it's raps. That ass is theirs.
When I was a little younger, I worked at a Chuck E. Cheese. It was for a stretch of about a year, back in 2016. The job was pretty average for me. I had worked at a couple of somewhat similar places, like a bowling alley and a restaurant. I was in college, so I was part-time and would not have the most consistent hours. This story takes place on a Thursday night when I was working a later shift until close. At the Chuck E. Cheese that I worked at, we had a break room in the back for employees. It was kind of what you would expect in an average break room. There were a few tables and chairs, and there was a fridge and a vending machine as well. After working a few hours of my shift, it was time for me to take one of my breaks. We didn't have a whole lot of employees working at once, so there was...
Is that a random break room, or is that really what the a Chuck E. Cheese break room looked like?
There could only be one of us taking breaks at a time. When I got to the break room and walked inside, I sat down at a table. Then I started to just go on my phone like I always did. There was also a little TV in there that was on some random channel at a low volume. But as I sat in there, I thought I heard a noise. I didn't know what it was though, because I was the only person in there. I was looking around, sort of confused. That's when I suddenly saw in the corner, behind the vending machine, somebody was there. I just barely saw part of their body, and only because I leaned my body over a little and looked. As I did this, the person suddenly stood up. It was a man, and I don't know who he was. I remember that he had a beard and kind of messy hair. As he stood up, I was too surprised to say anything at first. But then, I noticed the man was walking towards me. He didn't say anything as he did. The way that he was walking towards me was like he was trying to sneak up on me, but I could see him the whole time. It really creeped me out, and finally, when he was less than 10 feet away, I stood up. I said something like, "What are you doing, man?" The man did not answer me and kept getting closer. I turned and ran out of there as fast as I could. I didn't look back and ran all the way to the front of the building. It was a quiet night and there weren't too many customers in the arcade or anything. I just wanted to get to the area with the most people though. I found one of my coworkers and let them know about the guy. We debated whether we should go back to the break room or not. The guy might have been dangerous. After probably a 5-minute discussion, we decided to go back there. I walked back to the break room with my coworker. When we got there, the door was closed. We knocked and let the man know that he had to leave, but we got no answer. My coworker then opened the door against my warning. When we looked inside though, the man was nowhere to be seen. The entire break room was messed up. Tables were flipped over, chairs were upside down and on top of tables. The fridge was open and the garbage was tipped over and spilled. He basically trashed the room. We searched it, but he was gone. I guess he must have left after I had run out. We cleaned up the mess, which took about 10 minutes, but in all honesty, I was just glad that the man was gone and he didn't hurt anyone. That was my scariest experience working at Chuck E. Cheese.
I really hate public break rooms in a sense that like people can see the break room and anybody can just go in there. Like I worked at Publix, and Publix is a grocery store if you don't know, and I worked there for like a little minute. It was over a year, but like for like a little minute. And the one of the Publixes that I was at, it was like every now and then customers would kind of accidentally walk into the break room because the bathrooms were kind of close to the break room, but the doors on the bathroom and the door that was on the break room were similar, so it kind of looked like it. But the only thing that really stood out was the fact that the bathroom doors had like the male and female symbols on them to, distinguish. But it's like, how do you? I couldn't stand that. Would y'all believe me if I told you that some of these stories be pissing you the hell off? Like, it's not just for show. I'm not just to like putting on, I'm not just putting on like a little act. Some of these stories be pissing me off because it's like, you can't really be that fucking stupid. But then again, you got people that are just stupid and that don't have no common sense. And to that, I say, stay the hell away from me. Keep it cool, keep it classy, and I love you. Stay happy. My family.